Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm your host for today's episode, Patrick Kenny, and I think we have a fun show for y'all today. So we're just going to real quick go over what the show is going to be today, and then we're just going to hop right into it. So our first thing, if you remember my last episode that came out, I previewed the Dodgers and Padres series, and now we're just going to start off with a recap of that series. And boy, oh boy, was it a good series. Oh my goodness, it was an intense series. Tatis was going off. Him and Bauer had a little bit of a back and forth. It was so fun. Then I got a few stats and standing updates. And then in the third segment, we're going to be going over the Colorado Rockies general manager, Jeff Bridich, leaving the Colorado Rockies in just complete and utter disarray and poverty. And then in the last segment, we're going to be discussing whether or not Madison Bumgardner's no-hitter over the weekend should be, whether it should count or not, basically. So that being said, we're just going to hop right into it, and we're just going to go over sort of the Padres and Dodgers series, starting with the first game last Thursday on April 22nd. And so starting off, they have had a fun game. So for the first 4 innings, both starting pitchers had yet to give up a run. For the first 3 innings, neither of them had given up a run. So Walker Buehler didn't give up a run until the 4th inning, and then Weathers for the Padres did not give up a run until actually he didn't give up a single run on Thursday's outing. So the San Diego Padres ended up scoring in the 4th inning. They scored one in the 6th inning, and they scored one in the 8th inning. The Dodgers, however, scored 2 runs in the 7th inning, and then they tied the game up and then immediately gave the lead back and weren't able to get it back. And then Fredando Tatis is doing very well. He didn't do that well this first game, but he still did. He went 1 for 4. He did have a strikeout, but 1 for 4 is better than 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. And he was just kind of starting. He's just now starting to get into a really good rhythm. He's now starting to get a little hot, and that's really what we want to see out of the game's probably most promising young star. Trent Grisham also had 2 hits that game. He also had 2 strikeouts, going 2 for 4. Both Tatis and Grisham scored a run, and then the next guy to score a run was Juxton Profar. He goes 1 for 3, a run scored, and 2 strikeouts. And then going over to the Dodgers batters so far, or for that first game of the series, Mookie Betts goes 0 for 4. Corey Seager also 0 for 4. Mookie Betts did have a walk in that, also 2 strikeouts. Corey Seager 0 for 4 with 1 strikeout. Justin Turner goes 1 for 3 with a walk. Will Smith goes 1 for 3 with a strikeout. Max Muncy goes 0 for 3 with a strikeout. And then really that's just kind of that's kind of the main players, main batters or hitters for the Dodgers. And then going down and we're talking about the pitchers. So Weathers got the start. He goes 5 2/3 of an inning, gives up 1 hit, 1 walk, strikes out 6, leaves the game with a .59 ERA on the season. Adams comes in and gets a hold. He gets out of that sixth inning. He gets out of that 6th inning and goes walks 1, strikes out 1, and then Pagan gets a blown save. He goes 1/3 of an inning, gives up 3 hits, 2 earned runs, gave up 2 home runs in his outing. Then Chris Matt goes 2/3 of an inning, gets out of that inning, ends up with the win, since in that top half of the 8th inning, which would be the following half of the inning when Chris Matt goes in, he was technically the last pitcher, so when the Padres get the run, they end up winning the game, obviously. And then Melancon comes in, strikes out the side in the 9th. After Hill also comes in the 8th. That's Melancon's 7th save of the year. Walker Buehler goes 7 innings, gives up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 9 strikeouts, gives up 1 home run. Ends up kind of lucking out a little bit because he was bested by Weathers in this outing. Treinen gets the loss. He's 1-1 on the season. He goes 1 inning, gives up 3 hits, 1 earned run, and then Alexander goes in the 9th and then just shuts the door, strikes out 1. That was it for him. Now going over to the second game, so Padres win the first game of the series by a score of 3-2. Definitely a close game, something that you got to watch. This next game was a very fun one to watch as well. Fredando Tatis, it was Hugh Darvish versus Clayton Kershaw. Hugh Darvish goes 7 innings, gives up 4 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and strikes out 9. Pomerantz comes in the 8th, doesn't give up any hits, strikes out 1. And then Ramirez comes in the 9th inning and shuts the door. And for the Padres, for the Dodgers, and Darvish is 2-1 on the season now, and Kershaw goes 7 innings, gives up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and 3 home runs. He is 3-2 on the season. Nelson came in after him. He goes 1 inning, gives up 1 hit, strikes out 1. Then Corey Knebel comes in, doesn't get an out. He gives up 1 earned run and a walk. And then Santana comes in and shuts the door for the Dodgers. He goes 1 inning, gives up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, and 2 walks as well. Now going over to the actual sort of box scores, see how everything happened. The Dodgers struck first in the bottom half of the first inning, and then it was pretty much, actually, not even pretty much, it just was the Padres the rest of the way through. The Padres scored 1 in the second to tie it up, to take the lead in the third, which would end up being all they needed, but they still got some more run support for their pitchers. They got another one in the 5th, and that's a score of 3-1 now in the 5th inning, and then it was zeros across the board until the top half of the 9th, where the San Diego Padres ended up getting 3 more extra runs and ended up winning that game. So Tatis came in, he goes 3 for 5, scored 2 runs, 3 RBIs, struck out once, raising his average from what it was the day prior, which was 163, to above the Mendoza line at 208. Then Trent Grisham goes 2 for 4. He struck out once. Manny Machado goes 1 for 4. He also struck out once. No RBIs for either of those players. Eric Hosmer goes 0 for 3 with a walk. Will Myers goes 1 for 3, scores 2 runs, 1 walk or 1 RBI, and then 1 walk as well. Jake Cronenworth for the Padres goes 0 for 3. He scores a run. Obviously, he did have a walk. He also had 1 strikeout. Tommy Pham goes 1 for 4. He scored a run as well. Also had an RBI to his credit, as well as a strikeout. Now, Caterini goes 0 for 3, the catcher. He also had a walk and 2 strikeouts to his credit. So 8 strikeouts in total for the San Diego Padres on Friday, April 23rd. Then going over to the Dodgers side of this aspect. And real quick, let me just say, I apologize for using a bunch of vocal fillers right now. And then I do it again. So I apologize. I just want to let y'all know that I am very aware of them, and I'm really trying to work on them. So I'll bear with me while I'm doing that. But going back now to the Dodgers, Mookie Betts ends up going 1 for 3 that Friday. He scored the lone run in the game. And then Corey Seager goes 0 for 4, struck out once. Justin Turner goes 0 for 3 with a walk, 2 strikeouts to his credit. Max Muncy 1 for 3 with a walk and a hit and an RBI. He was the one who scored Mookie Betts in the first. And from then on, it was pretty much zeros across the board. Raleigh also got a hit in 2 at bats, and then he was pinch hit for by Peters. Austin Barnes, no hits for him, 0 for 2 with a walk. And all the players that hit for Clayton Kershaw, they go a total of 1 for 3. Clayton Kershaw did get a hit. He also had a strikeout to his credit. 11 strikeouts in total for the Dodgers as opposed to the 8 for the Padres. The Dodgers had 3 walks that game. Padres had 4. 6 RBIs for the Padres, 1 RBI for the Dodgers. And then just real quick, that was Tatis. That was the first game that Tatis had homered in twice. Tatis that game, obviously, that was really, really special to Tatis, just because I believe it was 22 years to the day. His dad became the first player to hit 2 grand slams in the same inning for the Dodgers. I believe it was in Dodger Stadium when it happened. But I mean, it was definitely something very special that Tatis was very aware of his father doing. Will Myers also had a home run off of Kershaw in the 4th. And Tatis had his in the 3rd inning, and then in the 5th inning. When you homer twice in one game off of a Cy Young Award winner, you know you're doing something well. And then you go to the Saturday game. The Saturday game was just as intense as the Thursday game, not so much as the Friday game. The Friday game, the Padres seemed to just kind of run away with it. But it was kind of the opposite situation for then I would say, yeah, it was kind of like the opposite situation than the Friday game where the Dodgers struck first and then it was all Padres the rest of the way. This was a little bit more of a back and forth kind of game, even though the Padres ended up scoring first. So just real quick, it was Trevor Bauer versus Blake Snell. Blake Snell goes 5 1/3, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. His ERA on the season is a 3.92. Trevor Bauer gets the win. He goes 6 innings, gives up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 runs total, strikes out 9, and those 2 earned runs were off of they were off of Fernando Tatis's off of his 2 home runs off of him. So other than that, and I'll get into a little bit into that controversy or pseudo controversy that was going on, and it was pretty interesting to say the least. But 1 run was scored in the 1st inning by the Padres, then 1 more in the 2nd. Then in the 3rd and 4th inning, the Dodgers clap back with a run of their own in each inning. Then the 5th inning was nothing going on, zeros across the board. And then going up to the 6th inning, the Padres seemed to bounce back a little bit, and then the Dodgers put up a 3 spot in the bottom half of the 6th, making it a 5-3 ball game. And then in the 7th inning, the Padres got 1 more across, and then that was going to be it for the rest of the game. The final score of Saturday, April 24th game between the Dodgers and the Padres. The Dodgers win by a score of 5-4. 2 errors for the Padres, 1 error for the Dodgers. 12 hits for the Dodgers, 8 hits for the Padres. Tatis obviously had the 2 home runs. First one was off of Bauer in the first inning on an 0-0 count, and then the second one was also off of Bauer, but in the 6th inning off of an 0-0 count. It was definitely a very fun game to see. No home runs for the Dodgers in that game, but they ended up winning the game anyway. Tatis goes 2 for 5 with 2 home runs, 2 strikeouts as well. His average continues to rise. He was at 206 the game before. After this game, he's at 226, doing really well, kind of bouncing back. Trent Grisham down to a 302 average after going 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts that game. He had raised his average the game before from a 318 to a 333, and then after this game going 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, it drops from a 333 to a 302 average. But I mean, we're still really early into the season, and that's what's going to happen a lot with averages. If you have a really bad game or you fall into a slump, you're going to have a terrible average, and then all of a sudden you get really hot again, and you're just back to what you were before. That's just kind of how baseball works, this early in the season. Then Manny Machado goes 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Eric Hosmer 2 for 4 with the strikeout and a run scored. Jake Cronenworth goes 0 for 2 with a run scored, 1 walk and 1 strikeout to his credit. Juxton Profar goes 1 for 4 that game. One hit tallied an RBI. He also had a strikeout to his credit as well. And then Caterini goes 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts as well. That tallies 15 total strikeouts for the San Diego batting lineup and just 8 hits. That's not a great recipe for success. And then you go back over to the Dodgers lineup, and Mookie Betts, who played right field, center field, and then right field again. He goes 1 for 4 with a run scored, 1 RBI, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Corey Seager goes 2 for 5. He had 2 RBIs in his plate appearances. He also had 2 strikeouts. Justin Turner goes 1 for 4, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Will Smith goes 2 for 4 with a strikeout as well. Jackson Pollock goes 2 for 4, 1 run scored, no RBIs, no walks, but a strikeout to his credit as well. Max Muncy, who played first base and second base for the Dodgers in this game, goes 0 for 2 with 2 walks. And then that's pretty much mostly all you really need to pay attention to right here. And then you go down just to go over the pitchers real quick. You go over the pitchers. Blake Snell goes 5 1/3, gives up 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, strikes out 7. And then Johnson gets the loss. He goes no innings. He gives up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, and a walk. Hill comes in and gets the guys of the Padres out of that awful 6th inning for them. He goes 2/3 of an inning, gives up 1 hit, strikes out 1. And then going over the Dodgers, Trevor Bauer gets the win. He gives up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 run, like I said a second ago, strikes out 9, gives up 2 home runs, and then it was pretty much just everybody else holding the rest of the game. Kensley Jansen gets his 5th save of the season, goes 1 1/3 of innings. He walks 1, strikes out 2, and then real quick, just going over that last game, the Padres ended up winning the series by in 3 out of the 4 games, 3-1, excuse me. Tatis in this game goes 2 for 4, strikes out once, walks twice as well. He also has 4 runs scored and 4 RBIs. 1 RBI, 4 runs scored. Trent Grisham, 1 for 5, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Manny Machado, 2 for 6, 1 run scored, 1 RBI, 1 strikeout. Eric Hosmer goes 1 for 4, 2 for 4, 1 run scored, 2 RBIs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Jake Cronenworth, 2 for 5, 1 run scored, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Tommy Pham and Mateo, they go a combined 0 for 5 with 1 RBI thanks to Mateo, 2 strikeouts from Mateo as well. Juxton Profar goes 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts, and then Caterini goes 2 for 4, 1 run scored, 1 RBI, or 2 RBIs, my fault, and then 1 RBI as well, and 1 walk, and then 2 strikeouts. The Dodgers, Mookie Betts goes 1 for 7, 1 run scored, 2 strikeouts. Corey Seager, 2 for 7. 2 runs scored, 1 strikeout. Justin Turner, 1 for 5, 2 runs scored, 1 strikeout. No walks to his credit. Max Muncy, 0 for 1, 2 runs scored, 5 walks. That's impressive. 5 walks. Oh my gosh. This game also went to the 11th inning. Chaz Taylor goes 2 for 5, 1 run scored, 3 RBIs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout to his credit. And then we're just going to go over the pitchers real quick. Musgrove's got the start. He goes 3 innings, gives up 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Statement comes in for Musgroves. He goes 2 innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Ramirez comes in the 5th for the Padres. The 6th. I don't know how to do math. He gives up 5 hits, 5 earned runs, and 1 walk as well. He gives up 2 home runs in that. Adams comes in right after him. He goes 1 inning as well, strikes out 2. That was it. Pomerantz comes in after Adams in the 8th inning. He goes 1 inning, gives up 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts for him. Pagan comes in right after him in the 9th. He gives up 1 hit, 1 strikeout, no earned runs for him. Hill gets the win. He goes 1 inning in the 10th inning, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, able to get out of it. And then Melancon comes in the 11th, gets the save. 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Over for the Dodgers, Justin May got the start. He goes 6 innings, gives up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, strikes out 10. That 1 earned run, and out of 2 of those, 1 hit out of 2 of those, or out of his 2 hits, given up was a home run. David Price comes in after that, gives up 3 hits, 2 runs scored, 1 of those earned, strikes out 1. And then it was Gristal. He goes a third of an inning, gives up 1 hit, 2 earned runs, also walked 1 as well. And then Nelson and Gonzalez were after him. They combined for 2 2/3 of an inning, gave up 5 hits combined, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts for them. And then Clevenger comes in the 11th inning. He goes 1 inning, gives up 1 earned run, ends up with the loss. Also had a walk and a strikeout to his credit. So that's going to do it in that first segment. Dodgers win that 3rd game, but the Padres win 3 games out of 4. That was a heck of a series. It was so fun to watch. So fun. It was so many storylines. And I mean, we'll talk a little bit about Tatis and Bauer in the next segment in just a second. We'll be right back, guys.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome back in. So sorry about that. I went a little long on that first segment, but real quick, I want to talk about, before we really get into anything, I want to talk about the Tatis and Trevor Bauer kind of thing. So if you're unaware, an account, a Major League Baseball, like MLB The Show kind of account by the name of Fuzzy, he tweeted out, actually, if you want to follow him, it's at Fuzzy, FROMYT, FUZZY, Fuzzy from YT, Fuzzy from YouTube. And he tweeted out that he was asking if he was crazy or did Tatis know it was coming, let me know. And then Trevor Bauer quoted that tweet by saying, if you wanted to know that bad and added Tatis, then just let me know. You know I'm not scared. And then Tatis responded with probably the funniest thing probably ever, honestly. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. He said, tranquilo, hijo, which basically means quiet, son. And that was the best response. He also had a picture of himself holding his child and then photoshopped Trevor Bauer's face onto it. And that is one of the funniest Twitter exchanges that I have ever seen. So we're going to start out in the NL West, and we're not going to start out going into like today's standings, but we are going to start out with the standings that were there the day prior to, or the day of that series. So April 22nd was the first day of that series, and the Dodgers were 14-5. The Padres were 11-10. The Padres were 4 games back behind the Dodgers. Now going back to today, the Dodgers are now 15-8, as are the San Francisco Giants. They're both tied for first place. The Padres are now 13-11, and they are 2.5 games back out of first place as they are the wild card. And so that is the first 3 out in the NL West. Both teams, the Dodgers and the Padres, are 4-6 out of their last 10. The Giants, however, are 7-3 out of their last 10, and they are on a 2-game winning streak right now. Fortunately for them, they're playing Colorado, whereas the Padres and Dodgers had to play each other. Now, the Dodgers are about to play the Cincinnati Reds, and that's going to be a fun series to watch. But the Reds so far, or at least the last 10 games, they have not been doing well. They are just 3-7 out of their last 10. Granted, they did win their last game, and that was yesterday against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers lost their last game. It's definitely something that is very important to see. And so the Arizona Diamondbacks now are 11-11. They are 4th place in the division. They're about exactly where I thought they would be. Probably about 4th place is what I kind of expected them to be. Fortunately for them, though, they are 7-3 out of their last 10. They've won their last 2, and we're going to talk about it, like I said, later. But Madison Bumgardner threw a 7-inning no-hitter. And we're going to talk more about that in the last segment of today's episode. And I'm sure that's probably why, or one of the reasons why you clicked on that episode, because you wanted to hear my take on Bumgardner. But I'm not going to give away my secrets just yet. And so the Colorado Rockies, however, are 8-14, and we're going to talk about the Rockies as well here in a little bit. And unfortunately for them, though, they are not doing well. They are 8-7 at home, and they are 0-7 on the road. And it's not looking like a fun time to be a Colorado Rocky fan at the moment. However, they are still technically in the game. They might end up be able to, and they might be able to turn everything around. It is still early enough in the season, but I don't expect them to. Now, going out to the NL Central, Milwaukee is in first place right now. They are 13-9. They have won 6 out of 6. They are 6-4 out of their last 10. They did lose their most recent game, however. Then in second place, tied for second actually, is the Pittsburgh Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals. They are both 11-11, 2 games behind Milwaukee for first place. They are both 3.5 games back out of the wild card spot right now. Then the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds are currently tied for last place in the division. Well, technically they're tied for, they're technically tied for fourth place right now, but it kind of is what it is at this point. They're both 10-12. The St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs are both 5-5 in their last 10. The Cubs, however, have lost 3 in a row. The Cincinnati Reds did win their most recent game to bring them up to double-digit wins after a hot start this season. But like I said, they are 3-7 in their last 10 games. They're still positive in the run differential category, and the Reds have a lot of fight in them. But right now, it's just not looking good for the Reds. At least the last 10 days or so have not been great for them. Going out to the NL East, the New York Mets currently are leading the division with a record of 9-8. They are the only team that is positive in the division, which is the reason that they are in first place. They have played now 17 games, which is just 5 less than the Phillies. The Phillies are 11-11. They are 5-5 out of their last 10, just like the Mets. They are only a half game back out of first place, however. They are 3.5 back out of the wild card spot, however. Atlanta is 10-12, as are the Miami Marlins. They are both a game and a half back out of first place, both 4.5 games back out of the wild card spot. Atlanta is 6-4 out of their last 10. Miami is 5-5 out of their last 10. All 4 of the teams I mentioned in the NL East, the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, and the Marlins, have all won their last game prior to my recording session. Washington right now is 8-11. They are 2 games back out of first place and 5 games back out of the wild card right now. They are 5-5 out of their last 10, and they did, like I said, they lost their most recent game. Now heading out to the American League. We're going to start out in the American League East, and we're going to work kind of backwards than what I have been working. The New York Yankees are currently in last place in that division. They are 9-13. They are 4.5 games back out of first place and 3.5 games back out of the wild card. Out of their last 10 games, they are 4-6. They have lost 2 games in a row. Their run differential is -10 right now. Baltimore is the team in 4th place at the moment in the AL East. They are 10-12. 3.5 games back out of first, 2.5 games back out of the wild card. They have won their last 2 and are 5-5 out of their last 10 games. Toronto is in 3rd place right now. They are 10-11. They are 3 games back out of first place and 2 games back out of the wild card. They are 5-5 out of their last 10 games, and they are on a 1-game winning streak technically. Then you go up to Tampa Bay, who is also 3 games back, but they are 11-12. Their winning percentage is a .478, whereas Toronto's is a .476. So technically, even though they are both 3 games back out of first place and 2 games back out of the wild card, both of them, the fact of the matter is that because Tampa Bay has a higher winning percentage, they are technically in 2nd place of the division right now. They are 6-4 out of their last 10. However, they have lost 2 in a row. Now, the leader of the AL East, one of the more surprising teams, I wouldn't say it's the most surprising, but it's one of the more surprising, to say the very least, is the Boston Red Sox. They are 14-9. They are 5-5 out of their last 10. They did win their last game, but they have completely turned everything around from starting 0-3, losing and getting swept by Baltimore, to going to first place in the division. They're having an April to remember, and if you're a Red Sox fan, you already know that you can't get too excited now, but enjoy it while you at least have it. At least while something's there. If you're a Red Sox fan, just go out and have fun enjoying what's going on right now. Going out to the AL Central, Detroit is in last place of the division right now. They are 7-16, 8 games back out of first place, and 6 games back out of the wild card. Out of their last 10, they are 1-9, and they have lost 5 straight games. Minnesota is in 4th place in the division right now. They are 7-14. They have lost 3 games in a row. They are 7 games back out of first place, 5 games back out of the wild card right now. They are 2-8 out of their last 10 and have lost 3 games in a row, like I just said. Cleveland is in 3rd place currently in the division. They are 10-11. They are 2 games back out of the wild card and 4 games back out of first place of the division. The Chicago White Sox are currently in 2nd place in the AL Central. They are 12-9, just 2 games back out of first place, but they do have one of the wild card spots at the moment. They are 7-3 out of their last 10 and are on a 4-game winning streak. And then the best team in baseball right now, based on percentage, technically is the leader of the AL Central. They are 14-7. The Kansas City Royals are 7-3 out of their last 10 games. They are on a 5-game winning streak, and they are doing a very good job so far this season. Right now, I'd say that they're probably the most surprising team this year. I would also throw in probably Oakland just because of how bad of a start that they had. And then I also got to throw in the Giants there as well, just because the Giants are they're doing really well, and right now they're tied for first in the NL West, and that's pretty impressive considering a lot of people picked them to finish 4th place in the division, and a lot of picked them to finish 3rd place in the division. But that's pretty much where people expected the Giants to end up, and it's not looking like they're going to end up right there this year. But like I said, Kansas City is in 1st place in the AL Central. And then going to the AL West, the Texas Rangers are 9-14. They are 6 games back out of 1st place, 4 games back out of the wild card, currently in 5th place in the American League West. They are 3-7 out of their last 10 and are on a 4-game losing streak. In 4th place of the AL West is the Houston Astros. They are 500 right now, 11-11. They are 3.5 games back out of 1st place, 1.5 games back out of the wild card. They are 5-5 out of their last 10 games, and won their most recent game, I should say. The Los Angeles Angels are 10-11 as of my recording session. They are 3 games back out of 1st place, 1 game back out of the wild card. Out of their last 10, they are 4-6. However, they have won their last 2. The Seattle Mariners are in 2nd place in the AL West. They are 13-10. They have a .565 winning percentage and are 2 games back out of 1st place, and they do have a wild card spot. They are currently sharing that wild card spot or that wild card positioning right now with the Chicago White Sox. They are 5-5 out of their last 10. However, they have lost 2 in a row. And then one of the bounce-back teams so far this year is the Oakland Athletics. They are 15-8 right now. They have a .652 winning percentage. They are 9-1 out of their last 10, and they won their most recent game. They are still technically negative because when they lose big, and when they win, they don't win by a lot. But the fact that they are where they are right now, considering how bad of a start that they had this year, I would honestly say that they probably had the worst start out of anybody this year and are in 1st place in the division right now. Prior to them losing a couple days ago, they had a winning streak over 10 games, and that is super impressive. They're just doing amazing right now. It's really, really impressive. But right now, our league leader in batting average is Yermin Mercedes. He has played in 19 games. He has had 70 at-bats, 30 hits for a .429 batting average. Mike Trout is currently in 2nd. He has played in 18 games, 61 at-bats, 26 hits for a .426 average. Jesse Winker out of Cincinnati has played in 17 games, had 68 at-bats, and has 26 hits tallying a .382 batting average. And then tied for fourth is JD Martinez and Brandon Nimmo. They both have a .370 average. Brandon Nimmo of the Mets has played in 16 games, whereas Martinez of the Dodgers, of the Red Sox, has played in 21 games, 81 at-bats for him. He has 30 hits. Nimmo has 20 hits. They both have a .370 batting average right now. Right now, the league leader in on-base percentage is Mike Trout. He has a .539 on-base percentage. He has 14 walks and 26 hits out of 61 at-bats. I don't have his plate appearances right here, but that is his on-base percentage right now. Brandon Nimmo is in second right now. Like I said, he's had 54 at-bats out of the 16 games that the Mets have been able to play. He has 20 hits and 10 walks, tallying a .477 on-base percentage. Yerman Mercedes, the designated hitter for the Chicago White Sox right now, has a .474 on-base percentage thanks to his 6 walks and 30 hits. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the first baseman for Toronto. He has a .474 on-base percentage right now thanks to his 16 walks and 24 hits. And then in fifth place is Yuri Gurriel, the first baseman for the Houston Astros. He has had 79 at-bats this year, 28 hits, and 16 walks, which gives him a .463 on-base percentage right now. That is very impressive. He's doing very, very well. All of those guys, obviously, if you're a league leader, you're doing really well this year. I will go in and right now and give us one that's not a great one, and definitely not the one where you want to be a league leader in. But Eugenio Suarez, Javier Baez, Joey Gallo, Matt Chapman, and Randy Arozarena are all of our league leaders. Also, Rhys Hopkins is tied for fifth. They are our league leaders in strikeouts at the moment. Eugenio Suarez has 36. Javier Baez has 35. Joey Gallo has 33. Matt Chapman with 32. And Randy Arozarena and Rhys Hopkins both have 31. Now, on a little bit of a lighter note, our league leader in home runs is Rhys Hopkins, the first baseman for the Phillies. While he is one of the league leaders in strikeouts, he is also doing pretty well, I will say, with hitting the baseball really far. He has 8 home runs on the year and is in sole possession of first place. In second place for home runs, Ronald Acuna Jr., Nicholas Castellanos, Wilson Contreras, Nelson Cruz, Eduardo Escobar, JD Martinez, Ryan McCann, Shohei Ohtani, and Fernando Tatis Jr. are all tied for second place with 7 home runs, and then everybody else is tied for 11th with 6 home runs. That includes Mike Trout, Tyler Naquin, Bryce Harper, Freddie Freeman, Byron Buxton, Chris Davis, Javier Baez, Nate Lowe, Jordan Luplow, and Wilson Ramos, as well as Matt Olson. Now going over a few pitching stats so far right now this year before we wrap up this segment. Jacob deGrom has the league low in ERA. He has a .31 ERA so far. That's amazing. Danny Duffy has a .39 ERA this year, which is amazing as well. Trevor Rogers for Miami, he has a 1.29 ERA this year. He's doing a great job. Anthony DeSclafani of San Francisco, formerly of the Dodgers and then formerly of the Reds. He has a .15 ERA so far this year out of the 5 games that he has started. And then also tied for fourth is John Means of Baltimore. He has a 1.5 ERA out of the 5 games that he has started. He's doing very well this year. So far, our league leaders this year in innings pitched is Shane Bieber, followed by Matthew Boyd, Kevin Guzman, Zach Greinke, and Trevor Bauer. Shane Bieber has 36 1/3 innings pitched. And then Matthew Boyd has 34 2/3 of innings pitched. Kevin Guzman 33 2/3 of an inning pitched. Zach Greinke 32 2/3 of an innings pitched, and Trevor Bauer has 32 innings pitched exactly. Our league leader in strikeouts so far, Shane Bieber has our league lead in strikeouts right now out of 5 games pitched. He'll probably get passed up by Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom's next time out right now. But so far, Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole have both pitched in 5 games. Shane Bieber, 57 strikeouts. Garrett Cole, in his 5th game, got to 50. Jacob deGrom, in his 4th game, got to 50. Corbin Burns is in 4th place right now. He has pitched in 5 games, has 49 strikeouts, and is doing one heck of a job on the mound. Tyler Glasnow has also pitched in 5 games, and he has 46 strikeouts right now so far. Our league leader in wins right now is Jack Flattery of St. Louis, as well as Steven Matz and Eduardo Rodriguez of Boston. They are both all 3 of them are 4-0 and are doing a great job right now. They're all just doing a fantastic job right now. All right, so that's going to do it for this segment right now. In the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about the Colorado Rockies, Jeff Bridich, stepping down and leaving just the franchise in just straight poverty and disarray. And then we're also going to be talking about Madison Bumgardner's no-hitter. Excuse me, I should say pseudo no-hitter.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back into the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Like I said earlier, I'm your host, Patrick Kenny. And in this segment, we're going to be talking a little bit about the announcement on Monday that the Colorado Rockies and Executive Vice President and General Manager Jeff Bridich was resigning effective immediately, and Greg Fiesel was promoted to club president and CEO. The team's statement released on their Twitter is as follows. They have said, the Colorado Rockies announced today that the club and executive vice president / general manager Jeff Bridich have mutually agreed that Bridich will step down from his role effective immediately. Fiesel, the club's executive vice president / chief operating officer since 2010, and in his 26th season with the organization, has been named president / chief operating officer. He will now oversee baseball operations in addition to his current responsibilities leading all facets of the club's business operations, including spearheading the organization's role as host of the 2021 MLB All-Star Game festivities this July. In his 7th season as general manager, Bridich brings to a close 17 years with the Rockies organization. Bridich joined the Rockies department in 2004 and rose to senior director of baseball operations in 2006, and the senior director of player development in 2011. Since being named GM in October of 2014, Bridich oversaw the Rockies' only consecutive playoff appearances in franchise history in 2017 and 2018. The organization will be appointing an interim general manager for the remainder of the season, and they will conduct the search for a permanent general manager once the 2021 season MLB postseason has completed. So that is the Rockies statement there. And Bridich has released a statement on his own. This is from Thomas Hardingberg as his Twitter, and it is at Harding _@_MLB. at is spelled A-T. And he says, departing Rockies general manager Jeff Bridich has released a statement. I would like to sincerely thank Dick and the entire extended Montfort family for my tenure here. 17 years is a long time with an organization, and the experiences of the past 17 seasons have meant a great deal to me and my family. After the recent conversations with Dick and Greg Fessel regarding the organization and its future, it became abundantly clear that ushering in a new leadership structure is critically important. With that in mind, we arrived at the decision to part ways, and ultimately it will be the best for the Rockies and me. Change can be a great thing for an organization and for the individuals who comprise it. Dick has a clear vision for the Rockies, and after nearly 7 seasons as general manager, I believe it is time for someone else to help lead that vision. Working in professional baseball is not just a job, it's a round-the-clock lifestyle. There are innumerable people in the Rockies organization who have committed to that lifestyle, and I want to thank those folk for their volume of work, their care and concern for each other, and their collective belief in the organization. Finally, a big thank you to Rockies fans for loving our players and for consistently showing up in support of the team through thick and thin. Bridich, who is 43, was in his 17th season as the Rockies general manager. Under his watch, the Rockies did reach the postseason twice, but they only had 2 winning seasons. Those 2 seasons were the only 2 times that they had winning seasons. And he came under some serious heat in this past offseason, where he traded away the cornerstone of the franchise, Nolan Arenado, to the St. Louis Cardinals, in a deal that was just awful for the Rockies. They really didn't get anything for him, and that is just a straight travesty for the organization. I think Bridich is leaving the Rockies in just utter disarray. I don't think it's necessarily as bad, but I think that this situation kind of is similar to the Houston Texans situation, and I'm not talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm just talking about I'm talking about the former head coach of the Houston Texans, who is also the GM, who basically traded away everybody who was good on their team for basically pennies on the dollar. And it just kind of feels that way, especially with some of the other like trades and stuff that they have gone, and they don't have really any prospects in the tank right now. It's just not a good situation to be a Rockies fan right now. And Jason Stark of The Athletic described Bridich's reputation around baseball in February like this, quote, "We've been searching for just the right words to describe how the rest of baseball looks at the Rockies and their embattled general manager. But how about bewildered? That seems to cover it. Here's one rival exec's all too typical take. Nothing personal, but I have no idea how Jeff has kept his job. When you piss off your best player, then you have to push him out the door because he's pissed off, and you just have to pay, and you also have to pay the team you're trading him to $50 million just to take him. It's hard to think of anything else that wouldn't get you fired. I don't get it." And Troy Rennock of Twitter, at Troy, TroyRenck, Troy Rennock, tweeted this. He is a news anchor in Colorado. It was this arrogance that made Bridich so revealed. My text message when he stepped down were something never. My text messages when he stepped down were something. Never seen an executive inspire such dislike from so many across the board. And he was quoting a tweet from Mark Craig. And Mark Craig had tweeted, Rockies general manager Jeff Bridich once said that he was above media criticism because 99% of them, quote, 99% of them, they've never led anything in their lives, end quote. Worth noting that the 99% of them have also never enraged a star player and then paid $50 million for the pleasure of trading them away. Joel Sherman has a few thoughts on the Rockies as well, and Jeff Bridich. Quick thoughts on Jeff Bridich's stepping down as the Rockies general manager. It is possible that no executive in history has fared worse in free agency than Bridich. The money spent into value was atrocious. 2 franchise icons in Troy Tulowitzki and Nolan Arenado felt betrayed and left the franchise under bad terms. The second tweet of his thread goes on to say, if you think GM's forming the main impetus of this for the superhighway of information in the game, Bridich was viewed by his peers not as much of a participant. That is fine if you are nailing free agency, drafts, and trades. That wasn't happening. His exit seemed a long time coming. The third tweet in his out of 4 from Joel Sherman, 3. Yet, having offered that the toughest place to sustain winning is in Colorado and trying to figure out how to play well and stay healthy in the high altitude. No team should be spending more on sports science than this one, and that is far from the case. The Athletic came out with a story. The Athletic's piece was, this is still from Joel Sherman. The Athletic's piece pointing out the ownership over-involvement provided detail to a perception around the game. Reality has to be a part of the franchise moving forward, which means being realistic about quality of your players compared to the completion, especially Dodgers, and not falling in, and this is the fifth part of this thread. Number 5. And not falling in love with stars because of big contracts for Tulo, Arenado, Charlie Blackmon did not work out for the club. I have written previously that the Rockies should be the $140 million payroll raise. The philosophy of having a lot of 40-man talent to withstand the extra rigors of altitude. In the 6th tweet of Joel Sherman's, it goes on to say, this is the 6th and 7th, and the in the final parts of this. 6 would be more valuable. This is still talking about the Rays. The philosophy of having a 40-man talent to withstand the extra rigors of the altitude would be more valuable than being a top-heavy with a few elite players like Arenado and Story, but then below average as you move further and further down the roster through a withering season. The fan base is strong, and so the payroll can support a deeper version of Tampa Bay if done well. This all takes time and, importantly, a shift in thinking from the top down. Bridich did poorly, but Colorado's Major League Baseball's worst record this year goes deeper than him. If only the GM is changing the Rockies, nothing much will change. It is likely, however, that Bridich was in his last season with the team and knew it. This is from Troy Recknen again of Denver 7. The word of press release, I believe, was accurate. Bridich stepping down, Monfort would not have fired him during the season, but this tells me, in talking to sources, Bridich was a lame duck. He knew it, and that's why he should have been fired the moment he picked a fight with Arenado. Given the limited success the Rockies have had under Bridich and Arenado's trade and the team's just awful record this season, it's unlikely that really any Rocky fans are going to be following like the rest of the games this year. It's hard to expect the fans to do that this year. I mean, it's sad. It really is sad right now. Like the Rockies right now, hitting wise, they're doing very well. They currently have the 10th best OPS right now, or team OPS. Their team OPS is a 706, but when you go into average, the Rockies are still 10th. They're hitting 238 as a team. And then you go over to the pitching department, and the Rockies are nowhere near the top half. It's awful. In fact, they're 25th in team ERA right now. They're throwing .462. They're 8-14 in their games, and they're just not doing well. Like who on their team aside from Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon are going to are even like going to bring fans to the stadium? It's I mean, it's just abysmal right now. They're like, if you go through their 40-man roster, you just see a bunch of guys that are no names, and that would be fine. That would be absolutely perfectly acceptable if you were doing a sort of Tampa Bay style low payroll but super deep team. And right now the Rockies just are not doing that at all. And it's just so frustrating to watch. They have guys like John Gray who are very capable pitchers, and guys like it's just so awful. They have guys like their best pitcher right now is John Gray, and that is not a great. It's just not great. They have Ryan McCann, who is doing an amazing job this year. He's having a great year. They have Trevor Story. This team has a lot of talent, but they're too top heavy. They have not been set up for good for this year. They're going to have to try and get rid of Charlie Blackmon. They're going to have to try and get rid of Trevor Story, and they're going to kind of have to try and hold on to Ryan McCann as much as possible, because if they're able to hold on to McCann, they can kind of build around McCann, and maybe Chris Owings as well. But if who else do they have? They only have so many pieces. I think the Rockies right now, they just gotta have a fire sale. I wouldn't say fire sale because they need to get really good pieces, but they need to have a fire sale for guys, or for somebody like Charlie Blackmon, who's being paid a really good amount, but he's also a very good player. However, if you can get a few draft picks or a few really good prospects for Charlie Blackmon, or a couple decent prospects and then a good prospect for Blackmon, and then you trade Trevor Story and you get a few draft picks, or you get a few decent players, and then you try, and then maybe you go and then trade Ryan McCann and try and get a few more players, kind of thing. It would be. Or you could try and re-sign Trevor Story and then trade Ryan McCann and try and build around Trevor Story and try and build around another left side infielder. But right now, it's just I don't see how the Rockies can be anywhere close to where to being competitive. It's honestly kind of absurd. Like it's. I mean, they feel like as if they were. I hate to say this, but right now it feels like that the Colorado Rockies are the Cleveland Browns sort of the Major League Baseball right now. And I'm not talking about the new Cleveland Browns of like the last 3 years. I'm talking about from 1999 when they rejoined the league up until they drafted Baker Mayfield. I think it was 3 years ago, and if they're doing that, then it's. I mean, if it just feels like the Rockies just don't have any direction right now, and that is, it's just so disheartening because, like, personally, everybody listening here like probably knows that I'm a Cleveland Indian fan, and like right now, it feels like the Rockies and Cleveland are trying to fight out to see who can be the most incompetent franchise in baseball right now, and that's not fair to either team. But speaking as a fan of Cleveland, I kind of know, and also I happen to be a Cleveland Browns fan as well. I can definitely see how Rocky fans are feeling right now, and as a fan, you never want another team. You want there to be competition, and right now in Colorado, there's just no competition to be had. So we're going to take a short break right here, guys, and then we're going to come back talking about Madison Bumgardner's no-hitter and whether it should or should not count. Technically, it doesn't count right now, but we're going to try and make an argument for or against it, and we're going to see in just a second. We'll be right back.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, and welcome back to the last segment of today's episode, and we've already kind of talked about it a little bit. We're going to be going over Madison Bumgardner's no-hitter, and we're gonna think about it, and we're going to see if it should actually count. So, I mean, he threw a no-hitter, and threw 7 innings. It was an absolutely dominant performance. His past outing, and it's just, I mean, he definitely deserves everything that should come with it. So a few days ago, the Arizona Diamondbacks played the Atlanta Braves, and Bumgardner was just. He was fantastic. I mean, if you are throwing a no-hitter, you're pretty awesome. And the only reason it wasn't a no-hitter it was a no-hitter instead of a perfect game, was because if an error that happened, it was a throw from I believe Ozzie Albies at second that pulled off the runner from first base, or the first baseman, and the run scored. So technically, that's the only reason it was a no-hitter, and that's out of Bumgardner's control. Bumgardner was really, really dominant this game. I mean, he just absolutely was. And the catcher Carson Kelly was kind of tempted to actually jump into his arms, like a lot of catchers do. It's just kind of like a ceremonial type thing. But Madison Bumgardner's never been that kind of guy, and I think it's just kind of funny to see the you kind of see these important things that are going on, and I mean, Kelly said, quote, "I wanted to stay professional because if I did that, jumping into Bumgardner's arms, he probably would have punched me right in the mouth," Kelly said, laughing. He said, "I'm just so happy for him. I really am." Bumgardner broke into a smile as more and more of his teammates mobbed him on the mound, and he did it again when they got back to the clubhouse following their 7-0 victory over the Braves, which clinched the sweep of its series against in that 7-inning doubleheader against the Braves in Truist Park, the Atlanta Braves home field. Zach Gallen held the Braves to just 1 hit while tossing a 7-inning complete game of his own in Game 1. Bumgardner said, "I like to keep it pretty low-key," and they definitely didn't, but it's fun, and I appreciate that too. It's a pretty special moment for all of us, and like I said, I'm just blessed and fortunate to be able to be a part of this. For Bumgardner, Sunday was the accumulation of a lot of effort behind the scenes as he tried to work his way out of the struggles that he has had since joining with the D-backs last season. 2 starts ago, he said, "It felt like I was getting closer to the other side of the mountain a number of times before being pushed back down it. Last night against the Nationals, it was a step forward," he said Sunday. "He looked like the Bumgardner of old. It feels good," Bumgardner said. "I mean, that obviously was a very rough stretch, And I've been through a lot of rough stretches. It's just part of it, and I was waiting to turn it around. I've done a lot of stuff, and it's been only 2 games. I'm not caught up in saying this and that, but I definitely feel good about where I'm at right now. Unlike a lot of no-hitters, there were no outstanding defensive plays like that saved it. Instead, Bumgardner just methodically jumped ahead in counts and was able to put a lot of Atlanta hitters away. 2 balls, Guillermo Heredia in the mound in the 3rd and Travis d'Arnaud in the 5th were hit to a warning track, but that was pretty much... they just got caught. That was literally it. The lone base runner against Bumgardner came in the 2nd when Ozzie Albies reached on a throwing error by the shortstop Nick Ahmed. And Bumgardner finished the game throwing 98 pitches, 73 of which were strikes. And he was asked if he thought he could have finished the no-hitter if the game had been scheduled for 9. I mean, I would have tried, Bumgardner said. I don't know. There's too many variables. If it works for 7, it's hard to imagine it not working for 2 more. Bumgardner's postseason heroics are just legendary stuff, and he was a massive, and like when I say like massive twice like that, like he was vital to the World Series runs of the Giants in 2010, 2012, and 2014. But Sunday, he had thrown a no-hitter of any length. Like, he had never thrown a no-hitter of any length, like whether it be like a rain delay in the 5th inning where he had just not allowed to hit up until that point kind of thing. That's not it. He had never thrown anything like this. He's always been a very good player, but he's never been like that dominant for a game. And that is an accomplishment of it in of itself. And like he's definitely got to be proud of it, and he says he is. He says I'm pretty proud of it when talking about his no-hitter. And Bumgardner doesn't really believe in superstitions, but he was aware around the 4th inning that he had not allowed to hit, and he could tell that some of his teammates were treating him differently. I could notice people not wanting to look at me and not wanting to get close, which is normal during a no-hit bid, Bumgardner said, but I'm just laughing on the inside because I don't think that something I say or do like that is going to affect it. I mean, I don't see it that way. A lot of guys do. Personally, I am one of those guys. I am a super superstitious guy. That's a tough thing to say, super superstitious. But I'm incredibly superstitious, and I remember back in my playing days, I actually did get to witness a few no-hitters. And granted, they were it was a couple combined no-hitters on a few select teams or a high school team. But when you're in that situation, you're trying everything you can do to do exactly what you did the prior inning. And that includes, when you've been doing the whole game. So that means if you are standing at a certain spot in the dugout in the 1st inning, and then you do it in the 2nd and the 3rd, and then everybody realizes, oh, our pitchers are balling out right now. And then you just kind of do it again and again and again. And you try not to talk to the pitcher. You try just to let him be, and that's that can be kind of mean to the pitcher though a little bit. Honestly, like if you are really doing that to the pitcher, that's a little messed up. But Bumgardner said that he and Kelly had talked about his lack of hits in the dugout earlier or in the 5th or 6th inning. Of course, he also talked to the Giants catcher Buster Posey about a no-hitter once that didn't work out so well. I've also had other game a few years ago where I said something to Buster about it and gave up a hit on the very next pitch. So I don't know, Bumgardner said. I tend to try and eye on the safe side. So I do try and just end up on the safe side of that kind of situation, and it's pretty it's pretty interesting to say the very least. I mean, you could go either way for sure. Like, you could absolutely go either way, like, on that. Like, you either believe in all of the superstitions or you don't believe in any of it. But personally, for me, I love the superstitious aspect of it, and I think, to me, that's what makes baseball. But Madison Bumgardner and Zach Gallen, that day, they combined for 14 innings pitched, 1 hit given up, that was Zach Gallen's, no runs scored, 2 walks, those were both Gallen's, and then they combined for 13 strikeouts. That is what the Diamondbacks have been hoping for forever. Like, that is exactly what the Diamondbacks have been looking for a very, very long time. Or, like, it really just is that impressive. Like, that's what the Diamondbacks have Zach Gallen and Madison Bumgardner for. And unfortunately, I would say, it just hasn't worked out like that for them. Like, they still have a decent team, but they're about 500 right now, and it makes sense. It makes sense that they are 500 because like Bumgardner right now, he just threw a no-hitter and his ERA is still around 6. It's still a 6.13 ERA, and he got the win. And Bumgardner went 7 innings and he struck out 7. Didn't allow any hits. He threw 98 pitches, 73 of those were strikes. It's just really impressive that how good he was that day. And personally, for me, I don't know how much all of you all are like active on like MLB baseball Twitter kind of thing, but like Twitter is pretty much where I live. And I am an absolute I love Twitter so much, but that's besides the point. The point being is that there was a huge debate on whether or not it should count on Twitter, because it technically doesn't count in the record books. But I kind of followed the Jeff Passan's logic, and Jeff Passan is the premier baseball reporter for ESPN right now, and he tweeted that a no-hitter is a no-hitter, and it should be celebrated as such. And I totally agree with that. It 100% deserves to be celebrated. And the fact that it's not is kind of disappointing, honestly. Because there's nothing just because the game was 7 innings, it doesn't count. Like, I understand there is a major difference between getting to that 9th inning or whatever, or like finishing the whole 9 innings, because baseball has always been a 9-inning game. But because of that 9 innings, and there, I understand everybody's criticism, this guy, whatever, like only made or went 8 2/3 innings no hit, and then gave up a hit like on like the last strike or something, and like I understand that, but and while that is unfortunate for like things like the imperfect game, and where like you get the guy out, but it's just a bad call, and the umpire kind of screws you out of a perfect game kind of thing. But this is a little different because the game was 7 innings, and Madison Bumgardner pitched a complete game. He threw 7 innings and didn't allow a hit. And at least to me, I think that I just think that Bumgardner deserves the credit for throwing the no-hitter. And on Saturday, April 24th, in my book, I think Madison Bumgardner threw a no-hitter. And that's just, like, I think that just is, it is what it is. Bumgardner threw a no-hitter. But I think that also kind of stems from, like, all of the hate that as you guys all know, I'm a huge Roger Maris fan, and I loved Roger Maris's story. I'm a big fan of the movie 61 Asterisks by Billy Crystal, and like I love, and I hated learning the fact that Roger Maris was breaking a record that had stood for a very long time by a baseball great, and that people were just absolutely ripping him for it, and unfortunately for everybody, that just is like it is how it happened, but I don't like that. I wish that we as a culture would just appreciate greatness more often than not, because like take LeBron James in the NBA for example. LeBron James has been one of the best basketball players of all time since he got to the league. And like he had so much hype coming out like while he was in high school, and he had so much hype and everything, and instead of appreciating the greatness and how good he was and how good he still is at basketball, people are consistently comparing him to guys like Michael Jordan or Kevin Durant, and I don't understand. I just wish that we could appreciate the greatness that like Madison Bumgardner had. He had a fantastic outing on Saturday, April 24th, and deserves to get the credit for the no-hitter. Roger Maris deserved only like nothing but praise for like breaking the record, for racing Mickey Mantle. It should have been something that was celebrated instead of like something to tear down somebody else. And that's, I don't know. That's just my thought on it. I personally, like, I wish that we could appreciate greatness more, and like what Bumgardner did was great. What Roger Maris did was great. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, those are great. Those are great. So we don't need to compare everybody to each other, and I think that Bumgardner did it within the rules, and I think that's why I thought of Roger Maris right there, because Roger Maris didn't have anything to do with the games, like the extension of the league to 162 games. And Roger Maris was, Roger Maris was just kind of ridiculed for hitting a home run later in the season, whereas like Bumgardner has no control over how long the game is. Other than like he can only really control how, like, where he tries to throw the baseball, and like he has no control that it's going to be a 7-inning doubleheader. He has no control over that, and unfortunately for Bumgardner, it doesn't go in the record books as a no-hitter. And personally, I really think it does, or it at least deserves to be. So I think that's going to do it for us here today, guys. My name is Patrick Kenny. Tweet me at Patrick Kenny, KENNEY _. And follow us on Twitter at GSMC _baseball. Leave us a review on Apple iTunes. Follow us on Spotify. Write a review on the YouTube comments. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We put out a lot of other great content, y'all. I just really I really hope that you guys have a great day. Y'all stay very healthy. Y'all stay safe. You guys have a great rest of y'all's day. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.